for the Caregiver, Saturdays at 7 a.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. Central on American Family Radio. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Steve Pugh. Friends and family of Lindsey Graham paid tribute to the late senator at a funeral ceremony in his home state. Jonathan Seri has more from Columbia, South Carolina.
Lindsey Graham was laid to rest near the place his life began. It was a private family burial at a cemetery near his boyhood home in the small town of Central. This final farewell followed public ceremonies in Columbia, where friends and colleagues, including Senator Tim Scott, shared memories of a life lived to the fullest.
The advice I most appreciate from Lindsey, he never spoke to me. He lived it.
The younger sister Lindsey Graham raised after the untimely death of their parents was appointed to fill the remainder of his term in the U.S. Senate. Darlene Graham has also announced she's running for a full term.
The U.S. launched attacks on Iran overnight. This comes after Iran launched surprise missiles on U.S. bases in Jordan that were intercepted. U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker, says President Trump has the upper hand.
President Trump continues to hold all the cards, would love a diplomatic solution to this, but we are going to always be coming from a position of strength, and any attempt to attack the United States is going to be met with overwhelming force.
The Senate voted 86-12 Tuesday to advance a bill to impose sanctions on Russia and Iran. Alabama Senator Katie Britt says it honors the bill's sponsor, the late Senator Lindsey Graham, and enforces President Trump's peace through strength agenda.
You have Senate Democrats and Republicans, and you have the White House on the same page, knowing we want the killing to end, we want there to be peace, we think Putin's war machine has to be held accountable, and we know that this is the way to do it.
After confessing to killing 4 students in Idaho, Brian Kohberger now wants a new lawyer, and a judge has approved it. But Fox News legal editor Greg Jarrett says it's not going to change the fact that Kohberger will spend the rest of his life in prison.
Kohberger, after a year behind bars, realized that prison is not a picnic. You know, where's my Eggs Benedict for breakfast, my prime rib for dinner? So now he wants a take-back. It's a long shot. The chance of success is remote because he sat there in court and repeatedly admitted his guilt to all 4 murders one by one. He literally said, I'm pleading guilty because I am guilty. And he waived voluntarily not only his right to trial, but any future appeals. And the judge was very careful to make sure that Kohberger understood it, and in fact, he confirmed it in writing. And now he's just saying, oh, I was really kidding, I'm really innocent, and my lawyers threatened me, they induced me. The likelihood of that working is remote.
An immigration enforcement advocate says the governor of Ohio doesn't have the authority to prevent the Trump administration from deporting illegal aliens who no longer have a right to be in the country.
30,000 Haitian migrants were sent to Springfield, Ohio, a town with a population of less than 60,000 residents. Now President Trump wants to send the Haitians home after the Supreme Court ruled by a 6-3 vote to support the president's order to end their temporary protected status. But Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, during an interview on CBS, complained that the Haitians shouldn't be sent back to their homeland. Ira Melman is media director for the Federation for American Immigration Reform.
First of all, the courts have upheld the administration's authority to revoke temporary protected status. By its very definition, it is supposed to be temporary. In the case of Haiti, these people have had temporary protected status since 2010. That's 16 years ago. At some point, it ceases to be temporary.
Melman says the administration has both the legal authority and the logical authority to say it's time to go home.
Whether a governor of a particular state likes this or not, he has no authority to interdict or to preempt the federal government's authority to carry out its policies and carry out the laws of the United States. He's certainly free to raise his objection, but there doesn't seem to be much that he can do about it. And the federal government, the Trump administration, has said that for 16 years, they are going to require the people from Haiti who have TPS to return home. And they're going to carry this out in Ohio and the other 49 states as well.
I'm Chad Groening.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
Hello, I'm Steve Crampton, Assistant General Counsel for the American Family Association. The mission of AFA is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of American culture and give aid to the church here and abroad in its task of fulfilling the Great Commission. Our vision is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training in the interest of cultural transformation.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association. Welcome to Today's Issues. Join us for the next hour as we offer a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome, everybody, to Today's Issues. It is Thursday, July 30th. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildman this week. I'm joined in studio by Fred Jackson. Good morning, Fred.
Good day to you.
Get a little Australian, like it. Tony Vitagliano's in studio. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And then Chris Woodward, our news guy today.
Hello.
Ooh, yeah. kind of toned it down a little bit.
I'm going to do like the Dick Van Dyke thing. Is he going to sidestep the ottoman? Is he going to fall over it? You have to tune in every day. Hello! One of those things, or hey.
Were you even born when Dick Van Dyke was on?
Oh, no.
No, that wasn't.
My parents were still in high school. But no, I have seen a lot of classic television.
Same here. I used to watch, remember Nick at Night before?
Oh, yeah.
Got weird. They used to just show the old shows.
Yeah.
Yes.
I watched those all the time.
And you obviously know what the Dick Van Dyke Show is all about because of that famous opening where he trips. He did all these pratfalls, and then they switched to probably the second season where he sidesteps the ottoman, and so you've obviously seen it.
Tune in tomorrow, and we'll share our thoughts on the two Darrens from Bewitched. Yeah.
You know, Dick Van Dyke's still alive.
Yeah, he's like 100.
He just turned 100, I believe.
Wow.
And someone said he's still driving.
Oh,
so stay off the streets of Los Angeles.
I was going to say, that's not going to end well. And no offense to the 100-year-olds who are listening in our audience. It's just you can't drive when you're 100.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm against it.
I'll remind you of that.
Well, if I'm 100 years old and I'm still having to drive.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned that because there are some states that since COVID, some states did away with road tests. So a 16-year-old kid is getting a license without doing a road test.
Without an actual road driving test?
Yeah, in some places that has been the case. Yeah.
Wow, and here in Mississippi? Brent Creeley, our producer, is saying. So are you saying still they don't have a driving test
on the road? I have heard that they're going to bring it back at some point, but I didn't confirm.
Was that just because they didn't want the test? The person giving the test have to be in the vehicle.
That was one of the reasons. Okay. That was one of the how we're going to combat. That was our way to flatten the curve for 2 years.
But the other curve, accidents. Accidents started going up. Did not flatten that curve.
It's like that's on you.
Yeah. Okay.
They couldn't find a testing car that allowed for 6 feet between the tester and
just a big plastic wall.
There were things getting flattened, but it wasn't a curve.
This is the drive. It's a cab. Just got the plastic barrier that got in the back seat.
When I found out about that, I was like, "What's the point of a license at this point? If you're going to be like, here, kid, you know?"
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, speaking of flattening the curve,
yes,
and speaking of COVID, we do want to make mention of the fact that the now infamous hearing with Anthony Fauci yesterday. There's been some reaction. We're not going to, folks. As we mentioned yesterday, we just kind of had an emotional purge yesterday as we relived a lot of that.
It's like a Maoist struggle session, bringing it all.
Wow, nice. Yeah. Maoist struggle session. But we do want to at least make some points about the aftermath of the hearing in which Dr. Anthony Fauci appeared before the Homeland Security Senate Committee, chaired by his longtime good friend, Dr. Ron Paul, Senator and Dr. Rand Paul, excuse me. And so, Chris, update our listeners, and let's hear from some of the reactions. Whatever you want to do. We're not going to take a whole lot here.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, before you go any further, I do want to let our listeners know that next week is Truth for Youth Bible Week. So, we do this every August, and we have more information, of course, coming next week. But this is always a big week for us where we try to get New Testaments into the hands of high school kids. School is, I'm sorry, parents, to be the bearer of bad news. If you didn't know, school starting again is right around the corner.
Don't be sorry. It's not bad news.
For parents.
It's not bad news.
You've got 5, and there'll be 4. 4 of those 5 will be all in school starting this.
Not too distant future.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No. Okay. So anyway, just letting you know, we'll be coming your way with that next week. All right, Chris, sorry for the interruption.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So first of all, I have to say that on the advice of counsel, I've only brought in 2 clips for this Fauci segment.
Yeah.
What people need to know is that if things were left to Senator Rand Paul, we've not heard the last of this situation because in this soundbite you're going to hear, Rand Paul is still talking about how they can, the committee that he's is on yesterday that heard testimony or lack thereof from Dr. Fauci. Rand Paul is still out there talking about how they can possibly hold Dr. Fauci in contempt of Congress. Clip 6.
It's a resolution saying that he should be considered for charges for contempt of Congress. I think if that resolution passes our committee, which it will, that it could simply be referred directly to the Department of Justice. Now, we can debate that, but since it's not really a law, it doesn't have an exact procedure. I think there's a possibility that we don't go to this whole Senate floor, but that the committee passes it and we go directly to the Department of Justice.
Now, what they can hold him in contempt of, I am not sure. And I say that because, as we discussed in the program yesterday, Dr. Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment, which we're all allowed to use. He did so 111 times, even when it came to little insignificant things like, and I'm not making this up, the color of his tie. Clip 7.
Well, nothing says honesty like taking the Fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it.
Well, no, I didn't know this. What is that? What he's saying?
He's basically saying that the pardon is one of the factors here, and he doesn't, according to Senator Josh Hawley, who is a lawyer, was the Attorney General of Missouri, he does need to answer the questions, in Hawley's opinion, based on the fact that he's been pardoned, and therefore he doesn't. He's not going to.
I see.
Jeopardize himself.
So that was Senator Hawley saying. Not that he loses his Fifth Amendment protections.
He's got nothing to lose.
He's got nothing to lose. Therefore, he is required to answer the. Well, that's interesting because he can't be charged with anything for what he did. We talked about yesterday that Fauci. I had to go back and look this up, that he was director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases from 1984 to 1922. He was chief medical advisor to the president from 2021 to 2022. Obviously, he became famous, catapulted to fame during COVID. He was pardoned on President Joe Biden's last day or two on the way out for everything he had done prior to that day. So this is interesting. I wonder if that is going to be the grounds. Initially, when we heard Senator Rand Paul, talking about holding him in contempt, that I thought he doesn't have a leg to stand on. He has Fifth Amendment rights. But Josh Hawley is saying that, Fred, that he doesn't have anything to lose. Therefore, he was contemptible of Congress by refusing to answer the questions. Yes. This is interesting. I'm not an attorney, but this is an interesting twist, at least for me.
Well, it's also a brilliant kind of move by Josh Hawley to ask those questions.
Yeah.
What's the color of your tie? What day of the week is it? what color's the carpet. And for the nation to see Dr. Fauci continue to operate that way. To me, there was success yesterday in that hearing. Success was, I think, more Americans today now believe that Dr. Fauci was very dishonest. And I'm being kind.
Not just yesterday, but when he was in charge.
And I think the reason his lawyers told him to plead the fifth is because of the diaries. The diary that was released that contradicted what he had said. Dr. Fauci had said under previous testimony that, and that therefore, if he didn't plead the fifth yesterday, that he could easily have been convicted yesterday by that court.
If he had answered
that
those
Senate
questions.
hearing. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So the tactic wasn't to be a smart aleck.
Right.
The tactic was actually to protect himself because of what the diaries have told us. That are now, what was that, 1,000 pages?
Yeah.
How stupid, and it goes to the arrogance of Dr. Fauci, that he put everything on a government computer. That diary was on a government computer.
And I think some of that's required, though. I think if you're the head of a major part of the government,
but not your personal diary, though.
I don't. It wasn't. Okay, so you guys can help clarify this. It wasn't a personal diary because it was done on the government computer.
Yeah.
I think the reason he had it on the government computer is that he was required, I think, to record some of his thoughts about things, and then he became too personal in his commentary because it had gone to his head. I think that's what it seems to have indicated.
And to our point here, and one of the entries in the diary, he's telling his friend, delete this email.
Yeah.
So it was all there.
Go ahead, Tony. This is, and then you don't have anything else, do you, Chris?
No, not from this.
Okay, this will be. You're going to make the final statement here.
Yeah, I'll say this. I really do. Honestly, I didn't think anything was going to come out of this, but I really do hope that something does, and that Fauci is held in contempt, because I was trying to remember, and Chris was the one who reminded me, who under Trump's administration was charged and convicted of being in contempt of Congress, and it was Steve Bannon. And this almost never, we all know this almost never happens. I can't tell you how many people in each administration, Democrat, Republican, have come before Congress and never been charged. I mean, they say they will, but they've never actually been charged. But Steve Bannon was charged and convicted, and he will be sentenced in October for, this was for two charges, one for refusing to appear for a deposition and the other for refusing to provide documents in response to the committee's subpoena. So he's charged and convicted. And to me, that needs to happen more often. Otherwise, this is just kabuki theater. You know, I mean, I want to see Fauci charged to be in contempt of Congress and then convicted. To me, and if it's a 30-day sentence, that's fine. But to me, he needs to have that on his record forever. This is ridiculous. So are you telling me Steve Bannon could have just shown up to Congress? And I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. Where were you on January 6th? What was your involvement in January? I plead the fifth. Do you think the media or the Democrats on the committee would have stood for that? I mean, anyways.
And my understanding, again, is that Fauci could be convicted for what he did yesterday, because that's not covered by the pardon.
Correct.
So it would be for his disrespect to Congress and refusing to answer questions about what he did while he was getting paid as the head of a, at maybe not at the time, but certainly when COVID hit, a very critically important department of the federal government.
I know we want to wrap this up, but I have a question for you.
I don't want to wrap this up. I want to talk for another hour on Anthony Fauci and the COVID disaster.
So let's just say that Senator Rand Paul gets his way, and Fauci's found in contempt. Isn't he still open, even though the pardon is in place, on federal charges? Correct. That's what that pardon.
A pardon is only for federal charges.
Could Fauci not now be held under civil charges, sued by people who lost their jobs.
I don't know.
I don't think you can sue government officials for their own, incompetence or those kind of things. I think they are protected from civil suits.
Okay.
So now you can sue the government for the monies that you lost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can sue individuals while they're fulfilling their duties for the federal as a federal official.
Okay.
I think that's the way it works, so that you don't have members of the government being sued into oblivion and paralyzed.
Oh, that'd be a shame.
Well, we know where Tony stands.
That'd be so sad.
To paralyze the federal government with the threat of
members
civil
of
lawsuits.
Congress to be. Oh man. Anyways, sorry.
All right, so folks, we're going to try to keep our promise here. No, we are going to keep our promise, and we are going to move on.
Yes. Hours after President Trump warned Iran would get a beating, U.S. forces unleashed heavy airstrikes against the regime. Dozens of targets were hit, including IRGC military command centers, drone and missile facilities, and Iran's remaining maritime capabilities. Here's President Trump talking about this from the Oval Office. Clip 1.
We're going to hit them very hard. I mean, I can actually say that because in that, there's very little they can do about it. It was a different group than we're dealing with. They've already apologized. But, we got to smack them a little bit.
Mr. President, will you hit back when they strike?
Will I always hit back?
Yes.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Did you say they apologized?
Yes.
They already apologized for it?
I had to listen. I don't know what's going on over there in Iran. He said it was a different group. Fred, can you clear this up for us, Fred? I'm gonna pitch it to Fred Jackson. No, so we have said this. We're all on the outside, okay, looking in, unless you have clearance in the U.S. military and you're part of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the brain trust that is running this. Almost all of us are on the outside looking in. We all have become aware that there are different factions in Iran. They're not always, shall we say, on the same page. That it seems as if there was a faction that was negotiating with the Trump administration. I don't know how sincere they were, but that was the group that was negotiating when they had the memorandum of understanding. But there were other factions called hardliners by some of the experts who refused to have any kind of ceasefire. And that's why when we had a ceasefire, somebody would fire off some missiles because it was a different faction. Now, President Trump is saying that is a new faction, I guess, that we were responding to. But Fred, and then I'll ask Tony. I don't know where. We've said before where the off-ramp is here. My fear is that being supplied by Russia, probably, China, certainly. Iran is going to continue to come up with missiles and drones, and we're going to continue to hit back. And this thing is going to go on probably past the midterms and could be a political disaster for the Republican Party. I just don't know what President Trump can do to stop it.
If you go to afn.net, there is a new AP NORC poll that's out this morning that says 2/3 of Americans no longer believe that this war with Iran is worthwhile. I think they said 37% of self-identified Republicans in that poll agree with that as well. I had a conversation with one of our reporters just before coming into the studio this morning. I believe that President Trump has 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 4 weeks to wrap this up.
Yeah.
If he does not do that, by September is when we get into the real heat of these November elections.
Yep. Right.
If he doesn't have it wrapped up by then, gas prices are still high, grocery prices are still high. That's what the American people, and we've seen this in the history of politics in this country, You go all the way back, I can go back to Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter days.
Yeah.
Funny way we're talking about Iran then.
Yeah.
In 1980.
Right.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
47.
Because the revolution happened in 79.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it? Gas prices, the long lines, the whole thing. That's is going to emotionally motivate people to either stay home or, I'm not going to support this candidate anymore. I'm going to vote for the other guy.
Right.
Listen, if the president can wrap this thing up in the next 4 weeks, that takes away the only talking point that the Democrats have. It's done. But if he doesn't do that, it's going to frustrate the American people, and the story will not end well for the Republicans in these midterms.
There is an interesting bit of information in this story that Fred just pointed our attention to, the story on AFN.net. A third of the way down, there is a little Q&A with a guy named Robert McClary. He's a 52-year-old Republican from Ohio, a major state in any election. Okay, so you have a Republican from Ohio who has voted for Trump. And he said, quote, "I don't have any trust in this administration at all into why they brought us into this war, why they're putting our soldiers at risk again." He goes on to say, I mean, you've gotten yourself buried into this mess. So for you to have a Republican Trump voter in Ohio saying things like this, there's got to be a lot of other people out there that are very upset with this.
What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I agree with everybody here at this table, and I agree with McClary. I don't know how you get yourself out of here. I think, in my opinion, we should have. Now, hindsight's always 20/20, and I'm not the geopolitical strategist. I'm not in the briefing room or the war room or whatever. But in my opinion, you should have kept the blockade. You should have just kept it in place. It's the least invasive way to put pressure on the regime, and you just keep it in place and until every faction is ready to capitulate, until the money starts drying up, the wells start getting damaged. The faction we've been negotiating with, this is just the truth. They're not the ones running the show.
No.
They're not.
No.
They're not. All of Iran right now, the IRGC, is a mosaic. It's the best way I've heard it described. It's a bunch of factions controlling this piece of the strait, this piece of the strait. We're over at Karg Island, and none of them, very few of them, are probably communicating with each other or coordinating. It's all self-sustained. They have their own leadership hierarchy. So getting ourselves out of this, I honestly don't see a way out. I'm with Fred. I don't, even if he has 4 weeks, we were saying that earlier this summer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, I don't see 4 weeks is not enough time to get yourself out.
Or to affect prices.
Or to affect prices. And I'm very worried for the Republicans going into the midterms. I think you're going to have some Republican candidates who are going to have to start distancing themselves over the coming weeks and saying, we got to put an end to this.
Yep.
Who are running in November, whose job is on the line, whose election is on the line, they're going to have to start breaking ranks. And that's always dangerous to do. But they got to make a decision. Am I going to keep voicing support for this, or am I going to have to start distancing myself from it and taking a more passive approach to it?
My fear is, I am in agreement with all you guys have said. I think this is going to end up in a pretty substantial loss for Republicans in the midterms. My biggest concern is that this expands into World War III.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's my worst case scenario, where China says, fine, gloves are off, we're doing this over here. A kind of a middle term concern is that President Trump feels the pressure to invade at least Karg Island. Tony and I were talking about this morning, and the southern parts of Iran where the strait is. Mm-hmm. Look, the Kurds get involved, Turkey gets involved in the northern part, and then it's World War III. Yeah. And that could end very badly. All right, we'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
It's my turn. Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
As a student at Emory University in Atlanta, I used to occasionally go down to the First Methodist Church to hear the minister, the late Pierce Harris, preach. For many years, Dr. Harris served the church as minister, and his Sunday evening services were attended by people from all over the country. Dr. Harris once told a very dramatic and moving story about an incident which happened to him during his ministry. He was invited once to speak at a prison work camp. The prisoners were out in the open, and Dr. Harris had to speak from the bed of a truck. When it came time to introduce the speaker, one of the prisoners mounted the truck bed to make the introduction. The prisoner began his introduction by telling a story. Several years ago, he stated, two boys lived in the same community of North Georgia. They attended the same school, played with the same bunch of boys, even went to the same Sunday school. The prisoner continued, but one of the boys dropped out of the Sunday school because he felt he had outgrown it and that it was sissy stuff. The other boy kept going because he felt it was meaningful for his life. You know, one stops at that point in the prisoner's introduction to do a little bit of thinking. What makes people drop out of Sunday school? I guess that the answer to that question is as varied as there are those who drop out. While often part of the reason is the way in which Sunday school is conducted, most of the time it's due to a lack of interest on the part of the dropout and or his parents. I guess many people don't value the worth of the Sunday school very much. If they did, they would stay with it even when it gets dry and dull, or even when it appears to be a little sissy. Another thing one thinks about is what causes people to go wrong, to break the laws of society by which people live. Again, one could say that sometimes the laws aren't just and the prisoners are only victims. However, incidents of that nature are very, very few in number. In the vast majority of cases, the person sets himself above the law and ignores it. Of course, society has an influence on each person in the choices that he makes. But in the final analysis, each person chooses for himself the route his life will follow. He can choose to obey the law or to ignore it. The prisoner on the bed of the truck concluded his introduction of Dr. Harris. The boy who dropped out of Sunday school, the prisoner said, stands before you today to introduce the speaker. The boy who stayed in Sunday school is the one who will speak. Don't let anyone kid you. Your relationship to the church does have a very definite influence on the outcome of your life. Just remember this. Church business isn't sissy kid stuff.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Hello, Tim Wildman here, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. Hey, maybe you've heard some of my other announcements about our tours in March 2027. We're going to Greece and we're going to Italy. Two separate tours, but you can do both if you want to. The first tour is called The Footsteps of Paul, which will be going to many of the places covered in the book of Acts that happened in Greece. The other tour is Italy, and one of the places we're going to be going is Venice, and we're going to ride the gondola that Paul took on his trip to Venice. You can read about that in the Bible too. I'm just kidding, but you can call it a gondola or gondola, I don't care. But if you want to go on one of our tours in 2027, go to tours.afa.net. That's tours.afa.net.
Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself." Matthew 22:37 through 39.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
And welcome back to today's issues. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildman this week. I'm joined in studio by Fred Jackson, Tony Vitagliano, and Chris Woodward. And now we want to welcome, I don't say introduce because he's been on the show a number of times now, but welcome back Dr. Walter Wendler, who's president of West Texas A&M University. Maybe one of the least woke people in higher education in our country. Dr. Wendler, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Ed. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with all of you.
Well, sir, we wanted to have you on to discuss something that is kind of a surprising, I think for a lot of us anyway, a surprising development in our country with, it's not widespread, but the Democratic Socialists of America having won a number of important races, a number of tests of their strength are underway and will be on the ballot in November. But to kind of pivot to your area of expertise, and that is colleges and universities, what's transpired in our country over the last 70 years or so, just about the influence of Marxism, cultural Marxism, on our college and university campuses. And is this a serious threat posed to our constitutional republic? What do you think about all that's going on in our country?
Well, Ed, I do think it's a very serious threat in so many ways. And primary amongst them, or among them, is that the Western thought, the Judeo-Christian tradition of higher education, private and public higher education in America, is being vacated. And what is filling that void is this cultural Marxism that talks about the diminishment of family life, the diminishment of the ownership of private property. And I consider to be this also the substitution of the following of ideology rather than the following of ideas. George Marsden, who was actually a Protestant but an endowed chair at a little Catholic university called Notre Dame, wrote a book a number of years ago called The Soul of the American University. And he said in that book, the source of our strength is the quest for human freedom. And it's not material, but spiritual. And because it knows no limitation, it must terrify and ultimately triumph over those who would enslave their souls. And when I read that, the enslavement of the soul is the enslavement to any non-Western, non-Judeo-Christian ideology, in my humble perspective. And adding to that is this diminishment of the power and importance of family life in America. And as I think about this, I often think back to Genesis and the first social organization that was created. It wasn't West Texas A&M University, and I hope this doesn't shock any of you, but it wasn't AFA or AFR. Right. It was family. And we have neglected family life to the detriment of the whole of American society because it is the building block of a constitutional republic. Marxism, cultural Marxism, and indeed applied Marxism has another view that says that is not the cultural, that is part of the problem because it leads to capitalism and financial gain and so on and so forth of individuals. But these principles of social coherence and purpose and trust, these are important things that we need to make sure that we continue to attend to in universities. And too many universities are afraid to talk about these from a Judeo-Christian perspective. And I think it is tragic, and it's going to take a long time for it to vanish. But you said, Ed, that we're starting to see this. It may not be everywhere, but it's going to get more widespread, I think, unless people of principle stand up and say, wait a second, the foundations of American society, and as you said, a constitutional republic, are embodied in free thought and the pursuit of truth and understanding from a rational perspective the human condition in relationship to our Creator. These things are they're indispensable to a free society.
Dr. Wendler, Fred here. How did it happen that we surrendered our education system to people who advocate this ideology, this dangerous ideology that you're talking about? How did this happen?
Well, I think its intentions actually in some ways are rooted in a kind of a form of tolerance that I think is misapplied. We don't have to be tolerant of silly ideas or destructive ideas to our free society. We don't have to be tolerant to that. And the challenge is that a lot of times these small groups of thinkers, Marxist thinkers, we see it with this Democratic Socialist of America. They're a small group, but they carry a huge megaphone. We see it with the mayor of New York, and this is not a political. It's just this is the way it is. A very small group of people have a huge microphone, and they occupy the 24-hour news circuitry day in and day out. I mean, almost any news channel you turn, I don't care if the news channel leans left or right, if they're centrist, it doesn't make any difference. These guys are on there, and we pay a lot of attention to them. And I think we should be returning to the fundamentals. Mm-hmm. C.S. Lewis was very concerned that universities and the educational systems generally were creating men with empty hearts. Or empty chests with no hearts, and it was wrong-minded. And we try to listen to everybody and their ideas, which I think up to a point is appropriate. But then we don't push back. We believe this concept of the separation of church and state. And Dan Patrick, our lieutenant governor here in Texas, just recently opined and is going to look at how misunderstood that concept is in contemporary society. And I happen to agree with him. I'm a person of faith, and I don't hide that. I honestly confess that. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with me. I'm not going to try to proselytize anybody. I understand the difference between a pulpit and a podium. I get that. And normally when I speak on the campus, I speak from a podium, not a pulpit. But that doesn't change who I am. And I have to be honest about that. And I think too many of us are reluctant to do it. Mm-hmm. You guys in the safety of the sound room that you're in right now, it's one thing. But in the public, I think believers personally believe that believers need to be more willing to understand the apologetics of our faith and to share those in ways that confront the ignorance of for example, Marxism. The Communist Manifesto, which I've read, and it's interesting, and I've read it, and doing away with the family, doing away with private property. My wife told me the other day, one of the Nikita Khrushchev's key concepts, and she's right, key concepts was to get the children, and when we get the children, eventually we'll end up with the adults. And by the way, this is exactly the same as the 4-H movement in the United States. It was to educate the children to be better farmers, and then they would go home and tell their parents, and crop yields would increase. But when you come at it from a free enterprise perspective, a creator-driven, God-driven perspective, it's one thing. But when you come at it from a man-invented ideology about what's right and what's wrong, it turns into a disaster. Sorry, I get a little bit energetic.
No,
about
listen,
these
this
things
is
because
fantastic. This is great stuff.
It's important, and I think American higher education, by and large, has walked away from it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're afraid. And by the way, I understand it. I've been challenged. I've been fired. I've been sued. I've been everything you can do for trying to stand. That's not bragging or anything else. It's just the fact of the matter. But none of that stuff has worked. God's hand He keeps providing for me in ways that I can't even begin to describe. And I don't mean to be mystical about it or enigmatic. It's just the way it is. And I think all of us in leadership, in education, not just in universities, but in primary and secondary education, look at the tape from some of these school board meetings and what goes on in some of these public school meetings. And it's nuts. It's nuts. At any rate, probably overstated the case, but there you have it. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Hey, it's Chris here. I have a question for you that relates to what you just finished with. It used to be that colleges were the places that might produce tomorrow's liberal activists, but now we know, because there's well-documented examples of this, there's efforts to get kids in K through 12. So it's not just universities anymore. It's now grade schools that are trying to make kids woke and produce tomorrow's radical liberals. And I bring all that up because I can't believe we're saying this, but we're almost about to the point where kids are starting to go back to school, or maybe even starting school for the first time. So what advice would you give a mom or dad that's about to send their kid to school or send their kid back to school?
Well, this is very good advice. I mean, it's a great question, and I think the thing that the parents need to do is be involved. You don't have to go to a school board meeting and shout. You can go see a teacher and talk, or a principal and talk. I remember that Mary and I went to see a principal once. We were overseas in Italy for a semester, and we were wondering where our kids should be when they came back, because we were kind of homeschooling them, and they were going to school at an Italian school. I mean, it was just a different sort of thing. And the principal was very direct with us, gave us very sound advice. He said, both your boys are on the edge of their age group. They're some of the youngest kids in their class, and if they were to stay back a year, they'd be their oldest kids in their class. We learned that by talking to the principal. He shared his personal testimony of his daughters and sons, and how the sons were slower socially and emotionally, and that leaving them back would be a good idea. And that's what we did. And that was good advice from a public school principal. So here's the thing, to answer the question directly: get involved. And I say, not necessarily screaming and shouting and carrying signs. You go and be a thoughtful participant in discussions about these things. And if the school board is not thoughtful about it, I'd run into them at the local grocery store or the hardware store and talk to them directly and say, come on, what are you doing here? So I think parental involvement, look at the books that the kids are reading, that students are reading, and not just in first and second grade, but even in high school, maybe especially in high school. I remember one time one of our children was assigned, it wasn't assigned, but they showed a movie in a classroom, and it was this Michael Jackson movie, Thriller. Well, he came home, our youngest son, and that at night when it was time to go to bed, he came to see his mom and said, I can't go to sleep. I keep seeing bodies coming out of the ground. And Mary said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, we saw a movie in school today. Well, this teacher, unbeknownst to what the movie was, a parent brought it in and said, hey, the kids will like this. They showed the movie. Well, Mary went in front of the teacher, and the teacher was so apologetic and absolutely broken down about it, because she knew it was a terrible thing to do, and apologized, and she was a very reasonable person. So I say again, for the fourth time, get engaged. Get engaged. Don't just assume that everybody's good interests are going to make the day. We are individually, fearfully, wonderfully made in the image of God. And I say you take that knowledge and insight and you bring it to the public school teachers. And by the way, with all the challenges in public schools, a good number of those teachers share the faith that we share. And I think would be pleased to hear from parents about things that they're concerned about, and so on and so forth. So I say, without equivocation, get involved. That's the fifth time I've said it. Be engaged. And I think that's the most important thing.
Our guest
important thing.
Our guest has been Dr. Walter Wendler. He's president of West Texas A&M University. And by the way, Dr. Wendler, I'll let you pitch this. We have a very good relationship with Dr. Wendler. He speaks very highly of West Texas A&M University. It's a public university, but has maintained an emphasis on the values of Western civilization. Dr. Wendler, give me a second. I'm going to let you pitch your school here on air. But folks, if you like what you heard from Dr. Wendler, I want to let you know that in the August issue of the Stand magazine, some of you may not even know we have a monthly magazine. You can sign up by going to afa.net. Dr. Wendler has an article in it. I was talking to Rebecca Davis, the editor of our magazine, just yesterday, and we're going to be having more of the outstanding writing, the ideas you've heard from Dr. Wendler in the magazine in coming months. So check out the Stand magazine. Go to afa.net. His article in the August issue is Check Your Faith at the Campus Gate. Really? So Dr. Wendler argues that universities best fulfill their mission when faith, reason, moral formation, and academic freedom work together to cultivate courageous thinkers and responsible citizens. Dr. Wendler, so appreciate your insights that you've shared with us. Why don't you go ahead and promote West Texas A&M University? There may be parents who are going to be, they have seniors in high school. They're going to be looking at where they might want to send their kids. Why is West Texas A&M a good choice?
Oh man, you've opened the door here.
Give us the short version.
I will give you the short version. We are embedded in one of the most conservative regions in the state of Texas. And my job is, in my sense of things, is to make sure that the values of this region are part of the cultural exchange that happens when students attend a university, public or private. And this place is conservative. We are the most conservative public university in the state of Texas. I've written a piece about this, an op-ed a couple of years back, but I looked at the 38 counties in Texas where the presidential elections in 04, 8, 12, 16, 20, and now 24, it doesn't change. We have more consistently voted for Republicans in the presidential elections than any other county that's home to a public university in the state of Texas. And that's a fact. Now, I also want to say, just as a caveat, Republican doesn't always equal conservative. And I listen to you guys, and I know you agree with that. And likewise, Democrat doesn't always mean wild liberal or Marxist. These political labels they're less than satisfactory. But I think it's a pretty good indicator. We are conservative, and we openly and steadfastly proclaim those values, these conservative values, are embedded and imbued in West Texas A&M University because these are the people we serve first. And if people, your listeners appeal to that, here comes the pitch. They can go to www.wtamu.edu and look at our webpage. And if you'll spend any time there, you could go look at the Hill Institute or any of the number of initiatives that we have to promulgate these very important values. And they're not just Panhandle values. I think they're Texas values and indeed American values. And I think we need to be steadfast about it in places of learning and not apologize for them. Say, well, we're a little backward here. I get that. People tell me that in so many ways. You know, we need to be more like New York City. Well, I'm from 40 miles out on the North Shore of Long Island. And I'm not sure we need to be like New York City.
I think you get a big amen from the group on this panel. So, hey, Dr. Wendler, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation, and we're going to have you back. And folks, I just do want to remind you again and do a little pitch for the Stand magazine. You'll be able to read Dr. Wendler's feature in that issue, and I promise we are going to have more of his writing. He's a very good writer as well as a communicator. Dr. Wendler, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for your time and your tolerance of me.
Oh, no,
I appreciate
listen,
it very much.
this was excellent insight. Thank you, sir.
Okay, have a good day. God bless you all.
All right. I just, Tony, just really enjoyed that conversation. That was very insightful as to the, I think, tell me what you think of this. I think it is absolutely fine under the umbrella of our constitutional republic and the rights protected by the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, to let people have discussions about whatever they want to have discussions about. When you start drifting to Marxism or Islamism, this is my opinion, folks. This is does not necessarily express the opinion of AFA. I think you are looking at ideologies that want to overthrow the constitutional republic, and I don't think that those views should. I'm not sure how to say it. I am getting more to the place where I'm thinking, no, you cannot advocate the overthrow of the government. That's not protected free speech. There may be First Amendment absolutists that are horrified by that, but I'm starting to see what these people are after, and I don't think allowing them to use our freedoms to destroy those freedoms is the right way to go.
Yeah, I liked his point he made about how if not every idea should be tolerated. I mean that's something that that's the idea that we have to tolerate every idea is something that has crept into our society because of.
Well, he said tolerance.
Tolerance.
That was the open door.
Yeah, because of the moral subjectivity rather than moral objectivity, right? With this idea that what is good, what is bad, what is truth. So yeah, I agree with that. I mean, a society cannot survive if the people in that society don't agree on foundational morals and values. So as soon as an idea is introduced that is antithetical to those, you have to reject it. Otherwise, you risk it infecting and changing the hearts and minds of people within your society. And that's what we're seeing across these college campuses. I'm always amazed at, I remember the first time I found out that a lot of these Ivy League colleges were once like deeply religious, deeply Christian universities created for that reason. And to me, it just goes to show that the pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit and discussion of ideas is something that God has imbued into us. But once you start separating the Bible and God from that pursuit, you end up with the result that we have now at these colleges, which a lot of those same Ivy League colleges are bastions and strongholds of liberal and now Marxist, and socialist ideas.
And I would just say this. I'm not trying to walk this back. When I was saying, I was talking about schools and colleges and universities. When I say you can't tolerate it, you should not have professors in there who are advocating the overthrow of the Constitution. I just, if they want to talk about Marxist ideas as an academic study, that's different. But we have a generation of children who have been taught to hate our country, to hate our founding principles and ideas, hate God, hate Christianity, and then we wonder how these communists are getting elected.
Yeah, and let me, I don't mean, when I say we shouldn't tolerate them, I don't mean we should punish those who are having those. It's just that as a society, I think it's okay to reject those ideas that are antithetical to what we believe.
All right, folks, we're going to take a 5-minute break for news and then more stunning observations and insights as we look at what's happening in the country.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Dr. Jessica Peck talked about reimagining the church with Dr. Rich Griffith.
But what if we became a church that realized, hey, we need to be family to each other? Young people left the church because they had no ownership, very little accountability. It was like we were going to wait till young people became adults and then they became a leader, but we never did anything to prepare them to be a leader in advance.
Find this interview and other episodes of Dr. Nurse Mama on the podcast page at afr.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Republicans are seeking to hold Dr. Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress following his Senate testimony Wednesday, during which the former public health official repeatedly invoked the Fifth Amendment. Chad Pergram has more from Capitol Hill.
Lawmakers send a referral to DOJ hoping for prosecution. Top Senate leaders believe that's in order for Fauci. But contempt is not that simple. The committee chaired by Paul will vote next week to send a contempt of Congress resolution to the Senate floor. But there, it faces a filibuster, so this probably never gets to the DOJ. Paul insists that Fauci had no right to invoke the Fifth. That's because former President Biden issued a pardon.
Because you refused to answer, citing a privilege that is unsupported because of your pardon, and after being denied to do so, this committee has scheduled a vote next week on a resolution certifying your contempt.
Education experts are now raising concerns over teacher training programs that they say are pushing radical theories that undermine parents and drive a wedge between their children. More than 20 states across the nation are either implementing or endorsing the new programs. Nikki Neely is founder of Defending Education.
There are so many problems in schools today, and the fact that they are coming from teachers themselves, seeing programs like radical liberated ethnic studies programs, teaching children to identify both themselves and their peers through the lens of identity politics first, through race, through sex, and then to treat others accordingly, is baking racism, hate, and sexism, et cetera, into children from a very young age, and at an age when they're not able to defend themselves from that. And if parents don't know what's going on, then it's impossible for parents to actually be able to push back against some of these toxic ideas.
The state of Minnesota has plans to put so-called transgender dolls in front of students in schools as young as 4 years old. Caleb Castile has more.
Long gone are the days when Barbies were the only dolls that made news headlines. Now a program developed at the University of Minnesota is set to attempt to put these gender-affirming toys in the hands of kids from ages 4 to 10. The dolls feature removable body parts and several different clothing choices and hairstyles. This was meant to be used as a therapeutic tool for educators to be able to teach children that gender is based on how you think and feel rather than one's biological sex. Defending Education says that the issues aren't simply the dolls. The organization wrote on X that, quote, "It's that there is no indication parents have been notified this program is coming to schools or whether they'll be allowed to opt their children out." Paul Runco, Defending Education's Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives, says that this is the group's reason for concern.
Parents have the right to know what's happening with their child at school, especially on sensitive topics involving sex, gender, and mental health.
Defending Ed has filed a privacy complaint against the state of Minnesota for violations of the Protection of Pupils' Rights Amendments with the U.S. Departments of Education and Justice. Runco says that due to the Supreme Court ruling in Mahmoud v. Taylor, parents have the right to decide whether content such as this is appropriate for their child to be learning about in school.
So parents, under Mahmoud versus Taylor Supreme Court decisions, should go to their school districts and say, it's my right as a parent to opt out of these LGBTQ plus materials at school. And, by law, you have to allow me to do so.
I'm Caleb Castile.
The body of a teen is identified after she vanished half a century ago.
15-year-old Michelle Louise Collier disappeared from Fresno, California in 1978. Her body was finally found buried in a shallow grave beneath a vineyard, reopening a murder mystery that had gone cold for nearly 5 decades. A few months after disappearing, a tractor operator found her skeletal remains, but investigators could not identify the teen. Her family spent the years wondering what happened before finally learning Michelle had been the unidentified homicide victim. Her sister now demanding her killer be found. Chris DeMeo, Fox News.
And finally, more signs the job market is holding up.
There was a slight increase in the number of people filing for unemployment benefits last week, though new claims remained historically low. Jobless benefits rose by 9,000 to 197,000. The number of claims recently have been at the lowest levels in more than 50 years. Continuing claims, those remaining on benefits in the previous week, declined to 1.78 million. Ginny Cosola, Fox News.
More news online at afn.net. I'm Rusty P.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome back, everybody. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildman this week, joined in studio by Fred Jackson and Tony Vitagliano. And now Steve Paisley Jordahl with the flamingo shirt today.
Yes, I got my psychedelic flamingos going today.
I had some bad spaghetti once, and I think I saw those psychedelic flamingos.
I think I saw them in that Dumbo segment. I think they were dancing around.
I forgot about the old, talking about the original
old cartoon,
Disney
yeah.
animated Dumbo cartoon.
I'm hoping to trigger a flashback
Well,
from your days of heroin addiction or whatever.
Mission accomplished. Well, I was never addicted to heroin, but I was addicted to several other natural substances. Spaghetti sauce and whatnot.
There you go.
Mint chocolate chip ice cream.
Still have a problem with that.
Pretty serious addiction to that.
Exactly.
So, all right, Steve. Now we had made a promise to our listeners in the first hour, no more Fauci. But you actually have some good stuff.
With your permission.
Yeah. Listen. Let's go back to it. I'm not done. I'm not done ranting.
Well, okay, so I just got off the phone earlier with Sandy Rios, and we were talking about the Fauci testimony yesterday. One of the things that she brought up was the diary that he kept, and the things that we found out about him, his arrogance and his self-aggrandization through that. Well, RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was talking with Fox News, and he read the diaries and found something that everybody else seems to have missed. Listen to this, cut 17.
One of the things that was new to me in his diary was his admission that he got pulmonary infarction in July of 2021 after receiving the vaccine. So he took the Moderna vaccine on national TV, telling in a very, very highly publicized press conference to show people that was safe. Then he got one of the primary, most expected adverse events, which was potentially deadly blood clots in his lung, myocardial infarction. He kept that secret from the American public, and we only learned about it because of his diary. He was getting the best medical treatment that is available to anybody in the world at Walter Reed and all these other centers. There were doctors fawning over him. Meanwhile, he was telling other people to take this product and concealing the fact that he himself, after announcing this press conference to show it was safe, had actually gotten very, very sick from an injury that was highly expected and highly likely to be caused by the vaccine.
Wow. I don't know what to say. I did not know that.
Nor did I until...
This is the kind of thing you can hear on American Family Radio from American Family News. I'd not heard that anywhere. He hid that, knowing full well, Fred and then Tony, knowing full well that had he told the American public, with all the other stuff that was going on around about myocarditis and what is this, what was that, the infarction? What was the word?
Pulmonary infarction.
Pulmonary infarction. With all the stuff that was going around, that would have gutted the push for people to get the vaccine, and he kept that. Now listen, Let me just say this, and Fred, I'll pitch it to you. You don't have to rant, okay? You guys don't have to rant if you don't want. I'm not even saying that there is a causal relationship between getting the vaccine and having these heart issues. But the fact was, at the time, nobody could discuss it. Exactly. Nobody was allowed to discuss whether there was a causal relationship or at least such a strong correlative relationship that maybe we should hold off on giving people the vaccine. That's what upsets me the most about the fact that he hid this.
You stop and think now when you watch these ads for drugs on TV.
Yeah.
They spend most of the ads saying, here are the possible side effects.
We joke about that.
There's a law in place that forces these companies to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
You know, but apparently Dr. Fauci found himself above all of that.
Right.
That I don't have to tell the people, even when it happened to him.
Right.
And one of the repercussions of what happened during COVID, the American people, if they completely trusted our medical system, it deteriorated dramatically after that. And also the trust in officials who we have trusted to oversee health concerns, oversee what pills, we joke about, our politicians investing in Pfizer and all of these sorts of things. And then you hear this story coming out of the diary, and they say, there's got to be some truth to these rumors. That these politicians, they invest in these medications. But it's, in some ways, you know what you just told us, Steve, does not surprise me about this man.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. This seems to be the lane that he goes through life in.
That's a good phrase.
Well, Tony, all we were told was follow the science.
Yeah.
But not really.
Look, I'm going to have a pulmonary infarction just listening to that.
Did you know that?
Well, Steve caught me right before the last break.
Okay.
That's the first I've heard of that. So I'm gonna come out and say what Fred was saying. I'm gonna come out and state it. I mean, Dr. Fauci is worth $12 million thereabouts. 100. I don't say 100%. Highly likely that he had a financial vested interest as well as other politicians in both Pfizer and Moderna. Pfizer experienced its greatest year in history over the course of 2021 and around 2022, I believe. I mean, they made billions of dollars, and it was because they were getting paid billions of dollars. They were getting paid. Basically, the government was funding them to produce these vaccines. And there was this push, pressure socially and, at your place of employment. There was a heavy-handed push to take this vaccine. And it's just unconscionable to me that something like this would happen where Dr. Fauci would experience a very common, again, causation. I'm not going to sit here and make the statement that it was causation, but a very common correlative side effect of this vaccine, and would keep it to himself because more than likely he owned stock in Moderna and Pfizer. More than likely, I'm going to say not with certainty, but highly likely. And something like this coming out, the Saint Fauci coming out and saying, "Hey, I had some pulmonary issues after just so happened to be after I take the vaccine," would have put a huge damper on the mass adoption of that vaccine.
Especially after he did the big video thing of him getting the vaccine.
Exactly.
That was...
And to me, I get it. You can't... there wasn't enough information at the time to make a causation statement that this causes this. But it's the fact that all this information was withheld. All of the information should be presented to people when there's a situation like this and an emergency like this and unprecedented push for a vaccine development and push and public campaign for a vaccine like there was in 2020, 2021, and 2022, part of 2022. You need to present all of the information freely to people and let people decide for themselves. And that is why, to Fred's point, that people no longer have a trust of the medical industry, of the scientific community, is because you didn't give me all the information at the beginning and let me make the decision for myself. Maybe I would have heard about Fauci's pulmonary infarction and said, you know what, still, COVID's still scarier to me, worth the risk. I'm going to take it anyways. Yeah. But there's a lot of people, and I think the reason why they held it, there's a lot of people who would have said, I've known a lot of people who got COVID and survived, and I'd rather not take the risk.
Yeah, because I don't have access to Walter Reed Medical Center.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go.
But add to that, just for a second, add to that, people who did have concerns and other ideas were punished.
Yes.
And silenced.
Exactly.
So you put those two things together, it gets pretty Russia and China.
Yeah.
It really does.
And I'd toss Australia into that group of countries. Let me just say, in answer to one of the things you said here, Tony, is I think the reason you said, and this is the way we used to perceive life in the United States, give the people all the information, let them make up their own mind.
Right.
I think because so many progressives control the country, I don't think they trust the American people with that decision.
Well,
they say, you people, they may not say it, they won't say it out loud like this. They'll say, you people are too stupid. We are the experts. We're going to tell you what to do, and we'll make the decision for you.
Let me just take this to its logical conclusion. If we don't have trust in our medical system, all you gentlemen, except maybe Tony, know that as we get older, we are subject to medical tests and things that are not pleasant. They're not easy tests. We have to start watching things. We have to start trusting our doctors more and more about our health. And if you don't trust your doctor, I'm not going to get the test. There's no reason for me if I don't trust him, which means that I'm less likely to get the treatment that I might need if a cancer comes up or some other disease comes up, which means that the deaths that they say that he was responsible for because of COVID, that we're not done counting.
No. Yeah, listen, I just want to say I do trust my doctor, my physician. Okay, I no longer trust the people who inform him.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that's the breakdown for me. I do want to say that we don't know whether Dr. Fauci got money from Pfizer and Moderna if he had stock. I do want to kind of make sure that claim has a caveat. The fact that he's worth $12 million makes me very suspicious. I don't think you can be worth $12 million based on a salary working for the federal government.
No.
I don't know what his wife was worth or any of those kinds of things. But I no longer trust, and haven't for a while really, Dr. Fauci as a man of integrity.
Right.
So I think far too many people on both sides of the aisle are bought and paid for by big corporations and big money factions in this country. And I don't trust Anthony Fauci as far as I can throw him. And I may be able to throw him. He's not a real big guy.
He's not.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not
I don't want you to get sued. But
I'm not saying, with certainty. Obviously, that's me just. It's just there was a lot of money. Pfizer made a ton of money, and there was a monopolistic relationship, an oligarchical relationship between these big companies, pharmaceutical companies, and the government. Basically, people by the millions were required to take these vaccines. The government was paying and reimbursing because the vaccines were free, right? You go get the vaccine for free,
right?
And then get your booster, and then get your second booster, get your third booster, fourth booster, keep on going. All free, right? And the government is subsidizing all of that. I mean, billions of dollars. If you had bought Pfizer stock at the end of 2020, you'd be doing real well at the end of 2021. I'll just say that. So, again, I'm not saying definitely, here or there, but.
All right. Well, first of all, Steve, thanks for lighting that rocket again.
My pleasure.
All right, what else you got?
Let me back up something that Dr. Wendler was I know you guys were talking about, or to him about indoctrinating the schools that are indoctrinating. I have a story here from Washington State. A mom named Maria Varchetto is talking about her daughter, who is a fourth grader at Martha Lake Elementary School. Martha Lake, Washington, is a suburb of Seattle, to the north of the city there. She's in fourth grade, and she was going to her music class. And the teacher in the music class decided to play this video. This is cut 12.
Hey there, I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Teddy. Welcome to Queer Kid Stuff.
Today, we're celebrating Pride Month. We all are part of one big family. Gaming's happy stuff. Queer Kid Stuff. You are enough here at Queer Kid Stuff. I'm definitely an activist, and doing this show is a big part of my activism.
This is activism?
Sure is.
Does that make me an activist too?
Definitely. And do you want to know a secret? Just watching and learning from Queer Kid Stuff makes you an activist too.
Yeah, your kids are.
All right, so this is done without parental knowledge or approval. Tony, you this morning in our story meeting when Steve played this, Steve is just always just a breath of.
I've got good news to end the.
Okay, good. So he played that. You called that demonic.
Yeah.
Circumventing parents to basically preach an evil message to children without parental knowledge or approval, and using cartoons and using upbeat music. This is sick.
What came to my mind and why I call it demonic is it's what Satan does. Satan takes whatever God's people are using and will twist it. Well, the first thing that came to my mind was it sounded so similar to videos and messaging that my kids have, and everybody's kids, a lot of kids have watched in like Sunday school. All right, like the videos you watch in Sunday school, teaching kids about Bible stories and the gospel, and presenting it in a way that is palatable and ingestible, and that they easily relate to and understand. And this reminded me of that, but that's why I said it was demonic, is because it is teaching kids and twisting their worldview towards accepting a lifestyle that is inherently sinful and wicked, and then teaching them to go out that's okay, and that they can also be an activist. They can be a proselyte for the LGBTQ movement. You are, by watching this, you are an activist. It's just demonic. I'm just going to drop it there.
Yeah.
How old was the little girl?
Fourth grade would have been about 9.
9 years old. You see, the education system there in this suburb of Seattle, they're well aware. We got to get the kids early.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got to indoctrinate them.
Yep.
They probably were taught something different at home by mom and dad. So we've got them in the classroom. And kids at that age trust that person at the front of the classroom.
Right.
They're good people, because mom and dad have probably told them, you obey your teacher. And this teacher then presents this. What is the first impression for that little girl is, this is true. What's on this video is true, and I need to abide by that, because I trust my teacher, because mom and dad said you should trust your teacher. But Dr. Wendler was saying this. This is why parents, they need to find out.
Right.
Now, fortunately, in this case, this mom has found out.
Well, the girl came home and told her about the experience in there.
Good for her.
Told school officials her daughter recalled hearing during the lesson that students could identify as gay, lesbian, transgender, asexual, non-binary, or two-spirit. So the good news in this case is that the mom and the daughter had a good relationship. They could talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
So
well, and here's the other thing that does make this demonic, and that is not only does the child trust the teacher to be a vessel of truth, any contrary message that the child is hearing at home or at church now becomes suspect.
Yes.
Right.
Because if the teacher's telling the truth and we got the little cartoon figure talking about it and the happy music, what's wrong with my parents? What's wrong with my pastor or my priest or the preacher who's talking and is telling me something different? This is why this is so evil, is that now the school has insinuated itself between the student/child and the other authority figures in their lives.
It's the confluence in a child's mind of, my teacher teaches me 5 + 5 = 10. That is true. That is a fact, right? There are 26 letters in the alphabet. This is how you pronounce them all. This is how you read. The kids are learning that your teacher is telling you facts and truth, right? Is teaching you truth. So then what they do is they bring in these other ideas, these other ideologies, and they're in the child's mind, what this teacher is teaching me about this must also be true.
Right.
Because, this is everything else. Mommy and daddy tell me that, you know what, 2 + 2 = 4. And this is how you do subtraction, blah, blah. And anyways.
One snarky caveat to you. Probably if it's like a lot of schools, not all, a lot of schools, they're not teaching them 5 + 5.
Maybe not, yeah.
And they're not teaching them how to pronounce, because we know kids are young adults are ending up in university, and the university is saying you got to go back and learn to read.
Yeah.
But they are getting this stuff.
Tony, 5 + 5 = gay. You knew that?
Yeah.
Well, listen, this has been going on for a while. This is one of the reasons, folks, why AFA has continued to stand against this movement, is because of the kind of sinister attempt to separate a child from parents and church authority, and it doesn't get any more evil than that. And doing it secretly, obviously.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right. Hey, we told you yesterday about 16-year-old lifeguard Ryder Williams in Santa Cruz, who was rescued a 10-year-old kid. We're finding out that he didn't end his day there. The teenage lifeguard who saved a number of young swimmers at Seabright Beach in Santa Cruz has been identified as Ryder Williams. He's 16 years old. He rushed into the water to save a 10-year-old child whose name was Nathaniel Ray. More surprising, however, was that the rookie lifeguard returned to duty immediately after the rescue and went on to help in 4 more rescues as the hazardous surf increased at the beach. It was Seabright Beach. There was a hurricane down in southern Mexico, and it was churning up the water. And the president has said he's going to invite Ryder Williams to the White House and award him a high civilian honor. I don't know. He didn't name the honor. There are a number of awards that something like this could.
He'll probably talk to others in his administration and say, what can we give this young man?
And look forward to seeing him at the next State of the Union address.
Well, first of all, it was extraordinary yesterday. Yeah. You showed the video to us. I was blown away by the power of the ocean. This young man went in, disregarding his own safety to save. This video of this 10-year-old, that kid was exhausted. That kid would have been swept away.
Yeah.
And then he turned around and went back and apparently helped with 4 other rescues. What an extraordinary young man.
It's a good day, right?
It was a good day.
Yes.
Fred, I'll just say this. We're almost out of time here, but this young man, Ryder Williams, age 16, he's going to start off with some high civil award from the President of the United States.
Yeah.
That's what courage does. Sometimes it rewards it, and this young man's probably got a bright future.
I don't know who his mom and dad are.
Mr. and Mrs. Williams.
Yeah.
But they raised a great kid.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a lifeguard anyway, it's like it's like being a nurse or someone like that, I'm going to help people.
Yeah.
You already are a young man.
Mom was like, I'm so proud of you. Also, that was your last day as a lifeguard, though, 'cause you're no longer going to be one.
That's true.
Don't you ever do that again.
That was so dangerous.
You got to find a new career choice, son.
And the dad was going, just rub some dirt on it.
Yeah.
You're okay. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for listening to our anti-St. Fauci rants today. Again, it made us feel very good inside. More great programming directly ahead on American Family Radio. Lord willing, we'll be right back here tomorrow for Trivia Friday. Hope you'll join us.